Welcome to the Joke Zero podcast, where we talk about all things indie filmmaking. And this season, we are talking about Plan B, Joke Zero's first ever feature film, which is out now. And we're excited because we're talking to everybody in front of the camera, behind the camera. And today we have a very important guest on the show. I will say it can't really be done without this person. So we have one of our producers, DJ Dodd. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us. You're a very busy man. I see you have an extensive resume. You've been working hard, haven't you?
I try, I try. You gotta keep busy as an independent producer and, definitely try to keep myself busy as best I can.
I love it. Well, thanks for hanging out with us for a little while. And obviously, I got to talk to you. You must love movies and television. So, how did you get started in this industry?
I do love movies and television. I think, I don't think you could get into this business without really loving it. I think it starts with, as a kid watching Jaws and E.T. and all the Spielberg classics and just wanting to make those movies myself. But I first got started, I actually started as a film major at Drexel University in Philly. And I did that for a year, and I was kind of like, I don't really know if I can do this, as a career, because people don't really know what producing is sort of when you're
Yeah.
first getting started, and it's not something that's really taught. And it's like, these guys want to be cinematographers, these guys want to be directors, these guys want to be writers, and I didn't really have those sort of interests in the business. I wasn't exactly sure what it was I wanted to do, but I always really liked business in general, the entrepreneurship side of things and financials and and obviously the creative. So I ended up switching to business. So I actually got my degree in business. I got a minor in film, but I still had that, filmmaking itch. I was researching more, kind of learning more about what producing was, and then decided I wanted to try to go to film school. So I applied to, I looked at, the top 5 or 10 film schools, and obviously they're all insanely expensive. And I found Chapman University, which is a top ranked school, and I only applied there. I ended up getting in and into their producing program, which was a 2-year program. So I moved out to Orange County in California, went to school there for 2 years, and then, learned, obviously quite a bit about producing, made a bunch of short films in my time there, and then just started developing in my second year. It was a 2-year program. My second year, I just started developing more content and just projects, pitches, so I had, because again, I sort of started to get to that point where I'm like, what am I, am I just going to move back home? Now I have all these crazy student loans and I'm just going to like move home and be out of the business anyway after I did all this. So I ended up kind of figuring out that the reality TV business was a little bit easier to crack, actually. So at like 24, I was writing treatments and developing show ideas, and I ended up getting a job on a couple high-profile reality TV shows that, I basically started out as an associate producer on Breaking Amish on TLC and Amish Mafia on Discovery Channel. Coincidentally enough, back home, actually shooting where I was from. And so I ended up getting a job for a production company working on those series. I ended up moving back east, working on those shows for about a year and still developing my own content, my own pitches. And then from there, really, that's how I got my initial start in the TV business. And then I branched out. I always wanted to work on films. Films are my passion. The TV industry is sort of its own thing and what pays the bills, so to speak. But movies are my passion. So from there, just developing projects, setting up my own company sort of to just make feature films. And over the last, 10, 12 years, however long it's been now, I've been fortunate enough to be involved with 30 plus features in various genres and budgets, obviously mostly 5 million and under, some a little bit bigger, but, mostly independent features.
That's awesome. I really think like people appreciate that you weren't necessarily sure which area of the industry you wanted to go in. So you're like, I could do all of it, which is great. People always think, oh, a producer just has to be a billionaire who can throw money at something and they might not even have any creative ideas. They don't realize that, like, no, you actually sit down and you write the treatments and you have to network and you have to know which directors to work with and who's better at shooting the style of movie and whatnot. So it's kind of like you have to learn a little bit of every area, which I think is awesome that you were able to find a program that trained you to do that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I love, the aspects of producing, like you said, where you're just, you have your hand in everything. I don't pretend to be an expert on editing or shooting styles or anything like that, but I've watched plenty of films over the years, and I put together enough films over the years to be able to pick and choose, what works with this movie, what works with that movie, what'll be better for this project, coming up with ideas, reading an article and saying, hey, this would make a really awesome feature. Let me option this article and try to put something together, or finding a cool book or a true story, or, something that hasn't been told, developing a script. It's a lot of fun as a producer, be able to touch, every piece of the film pie, so to speak.
Totally. I want to know what it was like. You work, like you said, you're working in reality TV, but you're also developing your own ideas because you kind of always have to have your hand in a billion different projects when you're in this industry. I want to know what it was like to go to Sundance. You had a project that you brought to Sundance, right? It was 10,000 Saints. Is that the project?
Yeah. I was a producer on.
Congrats.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that was one of the first features I got involved with. Actually, I was fortunate enough to get involved with 10,000 Saints, which was based on a New York Times best-selling book, and it had a great cast: Ethan Hawke, Emile Hirsch, Haley Steinfeld, Asa Butterfield, and yeah, Sundance. That's the only time I've gone to Sundance, so my only experience is with having a film there, which was really cool. Going to the premiere was great, and the after party, you just meet a ton of people and networking. It's great for a producer, to be like, oh, what are you doing here? I have a film premiering. So that really helped with a lot of networking and a lot of connections early on in my career, which was awesome. And Sundance is just a blast. And I never made it back. I was always hoping I would get back.
You will.
And now I guess they're moving it. Yeah, but maybe not in Park City.
I was going to say, are you watching all the Venice Film Festival interviews or the standing ovations right now?
Yeah, the European festivals are so interesting to me because, what gets a standing ovation, like you said, at Cannes or Berlin or Venice, the critics rip it apart in the States, and, vice versa. It's always really interesting. But yeah, I love following the festivals and just seeing, what's selling, what are the A24s, neons, buying out of the festivals. What are the numbers? It's always fun when, Sundance, there's always a record-breaking film every year. The record keeps getting broken by the highest sale and everything. It's always fun.
I wanted to ask, I think it'd be helpful just to break it down. So when you say like the A24s and the neons, when you get an indie film like Plan B, do you then take, the finished product and go to one of those production companies, or do you try and pitch, when it's in the development stages, or is it a little bit of both?
Yeah. I mean, there's multiple ways to do it. I prefer to kind of package something up beforehand. So taking a script, attaching a director, or sometimes, the director, like in Plan B's case, Brandon wrote the script as well and directed it, kind of packaging it up, attaching bankable cast, and then taking it out to, the various distributors to see if we can get them to put up money in the form of what we call a minimum guarantee, which is basically when they say, if you deliver the film to us with these elements, this cast, this director, this running time, we'll give you X for it when it's finished. Then you can take that piece of paper to a bank, to some kind of lender, to get your money to make the movie. That's sort of the safest way to make a film, in my opinion, in our current marketplace, because, you're guaranteed a certain amount of money, and okay, as long as I don't go over this budget, I'm not going to lose money. When you do that, though, a lot of times you have a set distribution date. You're not really able to kind of take it to festivals and that kind of thing, because you make your movie and maybe it has to come out in September and you've missed Sundance and South by and the top festivals because of that. So going the festival route is always great. It's become, in my opinion, increasingly harder to get into some of the top festivals because they like a lot of repeat directors. They like a lot of star power. They want to know that, a big name is going to come. Like I mentioned, Ethan Hawke, if he's going to come to the premiere, we'll program the movie at Sundance kind of thing. So there's a lot of that, but it's still, in my opinion, a great way to get your film seen, to build buzz. And if you can get into, the Sundances, the South bys, Torontos, Venice of the world, you still have a really great shot at making good money on it, getting, a great distributor. The distributors typically, come to the top 8 or 10 festivals. So your A24s, your neons, like we mentioned, all the studios, they'll come to the screenings of films and they'll bid on, which ones they like and try to sell. So if you're lucky, like we talked about with Sundance, the record-breaking films, they get into a bidding war that, the film premieres at 8 o'clock, and then at 11 o'clock, the producers are getting a million calls and emails and offers in, and then you're in the wee hours of the night negotiating and getting into a bidding war. I mean, that's your your ideal scenario, taking a film to Sundance and getting into a huge bidding war, and it sells for 20 million and you made it for 2.5.
That's amazing. That's the dream, I think, right?
That's the dream, but that's absolutely the pinnacle. But that's lightning in a bottle.
Well, I got to know, how did you get involved with Plan B? And I think Brandon might want to chime in on this story as well.
I'll start, I guess, Brandon. So we're both from the Philly area.
Same.
Yeah, right. So we're all from the Philly area. So Brandon had reached out to me probably about a year to a year and a half before Plan B actually started filming. And we had a long conversation. I'd read the script, and then we had, a few email exchanges over the course of maybe a year, and probably the film went into production in like June. And then Brandon, you probably reached back out to me in like April.
Yeah, it was very close. It was a very quick turnaround. So yeah, kind of my understanding of that, and also say this to all the filmmakers listening. So DJ and I didn't know each other at all. We did have some kind of mutual connections, I'd say, but I messaged him on LinkedIn, and that was the first time we ever really interacted. And that's just such a great way for filmmakers to get in touch with other filmmakers and producers. Like, had I not messaged DJ on LinkedIn, we wouldn't be sitting here, and the final product for Plan B would certainly look a lot different than it does right now.
You said go Birds, right? And he was like,
Go Birds, go Phils. I know Brandon's a big Phillies fan.
Yeah, we're definitely both big Philadelphia fans. But anyway, I messaged DJ. We ended up connecting, and I kind of told him what I was trying to do with the film. I, at that point, don't think I had any money raised, maybe a little bit of money raised. And really, at that point, I don't think I necessarily was looking for another producer. I was more so looking for help raising money. And DJ mentioned some of the stuff he already just talked about potentially trying to get a minimum guarantee and things like that. The way we put Plan B together was just independently raising the money and then selling the finished film, which was kind of the second and more riskier option, like DJ just mentioned. But again, it gave us a lot of freedom and what we could do, which was great.
It's all very true and good points. And I think just to continue that, I mean, I think it was like you said, it was shortly before production, and you kind of came to me and needing a little bit of help with putting the cast together. I think you had raised all the money, and you were putting the crew together and looking at locations, just kind of doing everything. And we ended up in the last 4 to 6 weeks just kind of going hard at cast, and we ended up pulling together what I feel like is a very, very strong cast for the budget, and it's just a testament to the strength of the script. When you're going out to cast at the last minute like that, it can be disastrous. And we really didn't get any no's. For the most part, we kind of went out. We went to John Heater, we went to Jamie, and everybody just kind of said yes. They all read the script, they loved it. So again, testament to the strength of the script and material being key in a lot of ways. You don't always have to have a lot of money if you have great material.
So true.
Just to add into that a little bit, I think it really does help having a producer like DJ on board, because prior to having him, I was calling agents myself and trying to put the film together. And even though I had a script, when you're talking to agents and they're saying, oh, who's directing, who wrote the script, and I tell them that I am, it just kind of, it almost made it seem like it was an amateur project. And then having DJ make these phone calls, and you could look him up and see that he's been to Sundance and produced 30 films, it really just helped sell the overall vision of the movie, and DJ could really speak highly of it. And like he said, we really didn't get any passes, which was great. It was like all of the actors that I wanted were willing to do the film, and we even got agents were calling us to pitch their clients, which was really exciting too.
That's awesome. And Brandon, it sucks that people don't trust when you're like, oh no, I'm directing it, and they're like, oh, goodbye, I'm sorry. Are you in film school?
That is pretty much what it was. And I am a producer on this movie as well, so hopefully for the next one, if that does happen and I'm making phone calls, I can be taken a little bit more seriously. But for all the filmmakers listening, I think it definitely helps to get an experienced producer who's comfortable speaking to agents and also has relationships with agents and managers.
Yeah. DJ, I have a question for you. Out of all 30 plus films that you've produced, you have a favorite. And yes, this is a trap, because if you don't say Plan B, we'll all be upset, but no. Besides Plan B.
I will say that, there are, with the market today, like I love comedy and I've done very few just because they're few and far between, and it's hard to find a good indie comedy script. Out of all the comedies that I've done, for sure, Plan B is number one. And it's definitely up there. Like I said, I'm very, very proud of the cast that we were able to put together on such a, I don't want to say low budget, but the budget that we had. I'm very, very proud of what we were able to do, and Brandon should be very proud of that as well. I mean, in terms of like my favorite film, I've worked on a couple that, like you mentioned, 10,000 Saints who went to Sundance, Human Capital, which is a remake of an Italian film that played TIFF. I've had a few films that have played, some good festivals. We just premiered a film called The Beast Within with Kit Harington at Fantasia. I think favorite film is hard to pick. Best experiences, it's always great when those films end with a really great premiere at a top festival. But in terms of ease of production though, and we spent a long time working on Plan B, but at least from where I'm sitting, I know Brandon did the lion's share of the work. I mean, he did an outstanding job. But for me, it was one of the more easier laid back films in general, like without having to do a ton of reshoots. And that also brings it to the top of the list. And that with the cast, I mean, Tom Berenger, John Heder, I mean, we were able to put together such a great cast. And
yeah, definitely. That's a running theme on this podcast. Most people have said how chill and easy and fun, which makes for a good movie. It translates through.
Yeah, it really does. And like, I mean, I really can't, like, I can't give Brandon enough props for everything that he truly did for this. I know it was your baby and all of that, but you killed it for sure.
Yeah, I really, really appreciate that. And you mentioned Tom Berenger. I wanted to hear a little bit about kind of what that process was like. We talked about the casting a little bit. And some people like John Heder, I always loved him for the project. But to be honest, Tom Berenger was someone that you thought of. He'd never crossed my mind for the project at all.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of goes into your mindset when you're trying to find actors for specific roles in the film?
I mean, obviously first and foremost, you want to think of actors that you could see in the role, but I kind of always put business first in a sense. So I'm always thinking about what actors have name recognition, value in the marketplace that also fit, who maybe I also know their rep because we need them in 2 weeks and we got to close the deal quickly, and somebody that I can call up and be like, hey, like I need a solid here. So, all of that kind of coming together. I had some interactions with Berenger's rep before, and we'd never done anything together, but he's always been, a really good guy and quick to respond and all of that. And I always heard that, Tom wasn't cheap, but like always wanted to work and was more about the material. And so I just thought, hey, like he's somebody that, feels a little bit more accessible to us quickly. And that was sort of why I put him at the top of the list. But I think it worked out. I think he did a great job. And, obviously Berenger's a legend in the business. So I think it worked out.
And he's so funny in this. Brandon was saying we don't see him do so much comedy. Like he's really funny.
Yeah. I think that was part of it too. I think that's another, a good point. Like I think a lot of times when I'm thinking about talent, you don't want to cast so far, in my opinion, outside of an actor's wheelhouse, because then in the marketplace, they might, the sales companies or distributors might say, well, if it was a comedy and it starred, John Heder, then it would be worth more, but it's a horror. Why would you cast John Heder in a horror film or something? So I think like with Berenger, he's getting older. He's not really the action star that he used to be. He hasn't done a ton of comedy. So I think that also is like, you're not casting him in sort of your generic action programmer, whatever. Like this is a fun role. It's a comedy. He can kind of, show his acting chops a little bit, just have fun with it. And I think that also played the part. And I will say too, that when I talked to Berenger's rep, after he had read the script, he did say like how great the script was, how much Tom love the script and all of that. So again, it's like you can get to these people and you can offer a lot of money and all that, but when you don't have a lot of money, you still want to try to get name talent because you need that in today's distribution marketplace and the materials, everything. So the great script is really what I think got Tom to do it in the genre. It's a comedy, it's a good role, it's fun, it's a couple of days, it's like I think it worked.
Yeah. This is helpful for me as I have a script I'm shopping around right now. And I'm like, everything you're saying is super helpful. You just have to have the material. If you have no money, have talent, right?
I mean, that's really it, you know.
I think you're inspiring people though, because so many people are afraid. They're like, well, I have this script. I'll never get it made. I don't have millions of dollars to pay an actor who's been nominated for awards before. But we've learned a lot just through this podcast, and the people who've worked on this film. A lot of them were they were really excited about the script and the people working on it. And people still love the art of film. So like you said, you worked in reality TV. Is it your dream? No, but it paid the bills. So you can actually pursue projects that you do want to work on for maybe not as much money right now, or, you know, in the past or whatever. So I think that's really awesome that you guys were able to secure this cast, because it's bomb, and it really is fun. And for a first feature, Brandon, like, you know, dust it off. You guys really came through.
Yeah, no, thanks so much. And also kind of just to test the DJ and kind of what I learned from him, like the worst that an actor can say is no, like when you reach out to them and ask them to do the project. Because one thing about DJ is he never really said no. And I was like, hey, do you think we can get John Heater? He's like, yeah, let's give it a shot. Like, it's the worst he could say is no, and maybe he'll like the script and want to do it. And it was kind of the same thing with the rest of the actors as well.
Literally. And how many times are we told no every single day in this industry? Like, what's another one, you know? Move on.
Yep, we're in the business of no.
We are. We are. This was awesome. Brett, is there anything else that we want to ask DJ? You were great. This was super helpful.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I think you covered everything, DJ. Yeah, thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
And where can people find you or find your work, or is there anything else that you're working on that you want to promote?
Yeah, I mean, you know, my website, you can check out kind of the films that we've done. Futureproofentertainment.com. Working on a couple of things right now, closing up some cast deals for a movie that we're shooting in Malta starting late October. So we're getting close there, but pretty excited about that. We haven't announced it yet, so I can't talk about the cast officially yet. But yeah, we're excited about that, and yeah, always juggling several projects at once. And Brandon and I've been talking about some other things, and we'll see if there's another collaboration coming at some point. But yeah,
amazing. Well, everyone go watch Plan B, produced by DJ Dodd, right here on the show, and Brandon. I'm sorry, you're a producer as well. Today you are, and this was great.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.